Well, this is the day whiskey fans around the world celebrate their favorite distilled beverage. A certified specialist of spirits, Alex Lopez, is here. Now the resort beverage director at Tryon International. Good to see you. Thanks for coming down.
Thank you so much. I'm super excited to be here. Let's talk whiskey.
Yeah, you're always making a good lesson out of this. So first, give us the what is whiskey. You know, Scotch and bourbon are both
Scotch
whiskey?
and bourbon are both whiskeys. It just kind of depends on what they're using to make it. So it's the ingredients. With a bourbon, it has to be at least 51% corn. So corn is your main ingredient. If it's a rye, we're talking about rye. So rye just is a grain, you grow it similar as wheat. But when we're talking about Scotch, we are talking about barley. And we need to malt that barley. So we need to wait until it's sprouted just a little bit so you can get enough complex sugars to make alcohol.
And whiskey's made from the fermented grain mash. And you told me that grain is the most important definition of a whiskey. What do we know about that process?
So grain, you're talking about corn, wheat, barley. Those are the big important ones that everybody's talking about. But you can also have rice whiskey. And then after that, to get this brown color, you need to use oak barrels. And you can use new oak barrels if you're talking about bourbon. But if you're talking about Scotch, usually they're buying barrels from other wine regions and that kind of stuff.
And the Tennessee whiskey is a special kind of bourbon.
Tennessee whiskey, they refuse to admit that it's a bourbon, but legally under U.S. definition, it is a bourbon. It is 51% corn to go into it, but they go through a special process called the Johnson County process, which means that they filter using charcoal. So that charcoal filtration adds a different layer of flavor to Tennessee whiskey that you get that's very independent from your Kentucky bourbon.
And finally, is it the Irish and Americans that say EY in spelling whiskey and everybody else says Y? Who is correct?
They're both correct. It comes from the old Gaelic word, so ugsge, which means water of life. So it just depends on how you define it, and Scotch versus Irish, and it all comes down to the same way, and it just, how do you pronounce it? You want a stronger pronunciation.
Okay, excellent. Now, well, you've brought some items in front that we can learn about, but maybe advice for the first-time taster.
So a first-time taster, I always recommend going with an entry-level whiskey. So let's say Wild Turkey. Wild Turkey 81. You go in at the grocery store, it's usually around $20 for a bottle. It's a good way to know if you like the flavor profile. And then in Wild Turkey, you can go up into different flavors. You've got like your Kentucky Spirit, but then you have another brand called Russell's Reserve. So we at Tryon work with Russell's Reserve for our Earl Scruggs Music Festival and do a single barrel pick every year.
Yeah, and we definitely want to talk about that festival coming up. For this, give us a pour and kind of teach us what we're looking for and what we sense as we go.
Okay, so this is a single barrel of Russell's Reserve. So they pulled it from somewhere on campus and decided that its character is so unique that they don't want to put it into the blending process of making a Wild Turkey. So we just got to know that this is a very unique flavor profile. And if you're used to Wild Turkey or Wild Turkey 101, you're going to notice that there's a very Wild Turkey flavor to this. You get a lot of those really intense clove and cinnamon aromatics. That is a very Wild Turkey aroma profile.
And a lot of people will make their favorite cocktails. As we swirl and imagine this, what are your favorites to put together?
This is a perfect kind of Manhattan whiskey because it's got a little bit of proof to it. It's 110 proof, so there's more alcohol than you're used to in a normal bourbon. But it's got all of those cinnamon, all that clove, all those aromatics, which work really well when you include the bitters and the sweet vermouth in a Manhattan. It'll make it pop.
Very good. Well, as you cheers.
Cheers.
Small taste right here. You've got some upcoming events. We also wanted to cheers and celebrate. People want to know about the Earl Scruggs Music Fest. That is end of August.
End of August. So Labor Day weekend. We have the Earl Scruggs Festival, and that should be launching today, the lineup. But I will give you a hint. We have Alison Krauss coming.
Well, that's a pretty big hint. That's the good things to come there. Also, before that, on May 6th, you're exploring the wines of Piedmont, Italy.
So, yeah, we'll be doing a wine dinner. So, me and the staff at our restaurant, Campagna, which is an Italian restaurant up at Tryon, we will be doing a paired wine dinner, 6 wines from Piedmont in northern Italy, paired with the traditional cuisines of that area.
Okay, lots to enjoy. We'll appreciate the International Whiskey Day celebration.
I appreciate you
cheers for coming down.
Cheers, thank you so much.
Alex, thank you. We've got your information on screen. People can learn more about you by following Drinks with Alex Lopez on Instagram, and we'll see you again soon.